Here, just had an idea for making sleeping bags a bit easier to use. Went on the internet and I've seen the underdowns that you put on hammocks and the way of winterizing by putting the normal plastic bits inside the hammock itself. And I've done all that. I've spent quite a lot of time sleeping out in the winter with winterizing the hammock, sleeping in the hammock, etc., with a bivvy bag over the top and everything else, and that's fine, that works. The problem is if you're going to sleep for a long time with it, what you end up with is that because you are waterproofing the bottom by putting this sort of thing in it, what happens is you end up with the sleeping bag getting damp. Also, you've got to do the sleeping bag dance to get into the sleeping bag before you get into the hammock. So although it works, there are problems with it, and so I was trying to find a different way to make it work. So what I'm going to show you today is my idea for making a hammock more user friendly and not paying a fortune for it, because I appreciate there are solutions to this already on the market, but this shouldn't cost you very much to do. If you've already got a sleeping bag, you've already got a hammock, you can do this. So this is what we're going to do. For today's purpose, I've used an old sleeping bag of mine, 32 years old, and I slept out last night, got down to about 3 degrees C, and it went well. I was not cold, I was warm, I was comfortable the whole night, so I just recommend this to you. So I'm going to show you what it is now. I'm going to move in a bit closer so you can see what we've done. Okay, so let me over here. You see we've got a sleeping bag, and what I've done, let's take this bit here, is I've sewn around the outside and then I punctured a hole in the bottom, and then I put the cord from the DD hammock through that, and then I've hooked onto the carabiner which we all use. So you see it's easy enough to do. All I would do is to pull that through and hook it on to the DD carabiner, and that's on fine. Now everybody's going to yell, well, that's a bad use of a sleeping bag and all the rest of it, it's ruining a sleeping bag, but it's not. When I do this for real, when I do it on one of my good sleeping bags, what I'll do is I'll get a Velcro patch and shove that over normally and just take that off when I start to use it for this. And I probably won't do it on my best winter sleeping bag because I do sleep on the ground when I'm doing that. So I've just shoved that through and then I put it over the whole of the hammock. Now, if we look at this end, we can see that because I was doing it in a hurry, all I did was get a cord, put 2 stones in the collar, pull them tight around it, and then pull them up down. So the whole sleeping bag is stretched up and down, so it normally would be. Now a useful feature is, because you've still got the snow collar or the warming collar here, you can pull this tighter if you want to bring it closer onto the sleeping bag. So the effect is the same as the cocoon for the hammock, really. Now, the clever thing, which I think I'm clever doing, is that all the mummy type sleeping bags have the head bit up here. You're going too close, Tom. Head bit up here, and if that was hanging underneath, that would be hanging on the ground and be useless to you. So what I've done is turn the sleeping bag up the other way, so that the head bit, the cocoon bit, is on top. So that when I get into the sleeping bag, that flaps over my head and I don't need to use a hat. Well, I didn't have to last night, I was perfectly warm. So the whole effect is a type of cocoon. And my one worry, or one of my big worries, was the fact that once I put it on, it wouldn't actually be tight enough to keep me warm. But it was. And for those of you who are, like me, a little bit sceptical as to whether this would work or not, because I was fairly sceptical as to whether it would work and keep me warm, etc. You can see here that here's the hammock. All I do is unzip the hammock, down to there, sit in, put the legs in, pull it over the top, reach down and pull this up. And I'm in. And it's really easy. What I do is put my pillow, which I carry, it's one of those sort of pillows you stuff with your gear, put it by my head. That covers any cold spot that will be just behind here. Flap that over my head, and I'm warm. And to get out, unlike the sleeping bag dance or getting the sleeping bag wet by going on the floor and all the rest of it, all you do is unzip it. He says, ugh. Unzip it, and out you get. So it's a fairly simple idea. This is an old sleeping bag, but it's worked really well. I'll probably try and do it on my other sleeping bags. Put a hole in the bottom, put a Velcro patch over it for when I'm not using it, and then use it as normal. The next thing which I'm going to try is buying a bivvy sack, an old army bivvy sack, put a hole in the bottom of that. But with that one, what I'm going to do is tie it tight around the end string so it doesn't leak, or if it does leak, it leaks very, very little. Not much rain gets in like this anyway, so that's no real problem. And that'll just be ruched down to the bottom. And then if I need to, I just pull it back over the top of me. And like a sleeping bag, the bit that flaps over your head will be on the top, the bit that doesn't flap over your head will be underneath. And if I need to get closer, I'll just pull the toggle tighter. And I think that's a really good solution. It makes using a sleeping bag on a hammock much easier than it was before. So that's my thing. It's using an old sleeping bag or a new sleeping bag if you like the idea and you sleep like me a lot in hammocks, to provide you with a bit more convenience for getting in and out of the hammock, especially for those late night calls when you want to get out for a wee somewhere and you've got to struggle in and out of the hammock. Well, you don't have to with this. You just get in, you get out, get in. It's very easy. Okay, so that's One Man and Dog. Any comments, any suggestions accepted, because this is a learning process and I think there's a lot to learn about this yet, but in general it works. So that's me, One Man and Dog.